A jewelry store turned away an elderly woman. The next day, she bought the company and fired the employees. Hello, everyone. Take a moment to relax while you watch this. Here it was, Clara whispered to herself as she took hesitant steps toward the store. The golden jewelry in the window shimmered brightly, appearing like a world apart from the quiet town where she lived. The old scarf Clara wore stood out among the well-dressed crowd passing by. The chime of the bell rang as she opened the door, and the interior was nothing short of luxurious, gleaming display cases, bright golden lights, and impeccably uniformed staff behind the counters. But as Clara entered, everything seemed to freeze. Some employees exchanged knowing glances while others wore mocking smiles. "Good morning," Clara said, her voice shaky. "I'd like to see the necklace in the display case," Clara added. A young employee, Lucy, eyed her coldly from head to toe. "Excuse me, which one?" she asked. "The silver necklace with the blue stone on the right corner," Clara responded with a hopeful look. It was the gift she had saved up for to give to her granddaughter, who was soon to be married. Lucy smirked with a sarcastic grin. "That one? I don't think you can afford it, it's too expensive." Clara was taken aback by Lucy's rudeness, but she tried to remain calm. "I have the money. Could you show it to me, please?" Lucy rolled her eyes and walked over to the manager, Ethan, who was nearby. "Sir, this lady wants to see the silver necklace in the corner." Ethan frowned as he approached, dressed in a crisp black suit, though his attitude made no effort to hide his disdain when he looked at Clara. "Sorry, that necklace isn't for sale. You can look at other pieces that fit your budget," he said. Clara, confused, pointed to the display. "But it's right there in the case." "It's just a display model, not for sale," Ethan responded firmly before turning away, signaling the end of the conversation. Clara stood still for a moment, feeling something inside her break. She glanced around, searching for another employee who might be willing to assist her. An older employee, Isabelle, caught her eye but only shook her head slightly before turning away. "What a hassle," Isabelle muttered to someone at a nearby counter. It was Carlos, another employee, talking to Lucy. "Does she really think she can buy something here? Look at that scarf. It's from the market," Lucy whispered with a smirk, leaning in toward Carlos. "She probably doesn't even have enough money to buy the box." Clara heard every word, though they tried to speak quietly. Her face flushed with embarrassment, but she swallowed the lump in her throat and slowly walked toward another counter. "Excuse me," she said, addressing another employee, Alex. But he didn't even glance at her, too focused on cleaning the display case as if she didn't exist. "I'd like to see a piece," Clara insisted, pulling out an old envelope containing the money she had saved over the years. Alex gave the envelope a quick glance, then shrugged. "We don't have anything that cheap. You might want to try smaller stores in this area, they'll be more suited for you." Those words struck Clara like a dagger to her pride. She gripped the envelope tightly, staring at Alex as if she wanted to say something, but remained silent. No one there understood that every bill in that envelope represented years of hard work and the desire to bring joy to her beloved granddaughter. She turned and left the store, her steps heavy with a sense of helplessness. "Why are they treating me like this? Just because I'm not dressed well?" she thought, her heart aching. Behind her, muffled laughter echoed like a final mockery as they sent her away. Clara left the store, clutching her worn fabric bag. She stood still for a moment, feeling the cold wind rustle her old scarf. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she fought to keep her composure. "It doesn't matter, I'll come back," she whispered to herself. Despite all her attempts to convince herself otherwise, the feeling of humiliation continued to torment her. The thought of Lucia, her beloved granddaughter, glowing with joy when she received the wedding gift was all Clara needed to know she couldn't give up. She made up her mind to go back, this time with even more determination. She pushed the door open once more. The bell rang, but this time the employees' glances were not ones of surprise but of clear annoyance. Lucia, the young employee from earlier, turned to Carlos, smiling as Destiny whispered in a tone loud enough for Clara to hear. "She really came back? How stubborn." Carlos nudged Lucia, keeping his eyes on Clara. "Let's see what she wants now." Clara heard them but chose to ignore their remarks, heading straight for the display case. She tried to maintain her composure, even though the judgmental stares from the employees made her feel completely out of place in the world of luxury around her. "Excuse me, could you show me that necklace?" Clara asked, her voice firmer this time, striving to project confidence. Lucia didn't answer. Folding her arms, she coolly surveyed the scene. "Which one are you referring to? We have many necklaces." Clara pointed to the display. The silver one with the blue stone. Lucia gave her a mock smile and turned to Alex. Do you think she can afford it? She asked with a taunting tone. Alex shot Clara a puzzled look. I don't think so, but let's see. He walked over to the counter, but instead of showing Clara the necklace she had pointed out, he opened a different compartment and pulled out a simple silver necklace without a stone. Would you like to see this one? It's much cheaper, more in line with your budget, Alex said, grinning arrogantly. Clara stared at the necklace, feeling a wave of disappointment wash over her. No, I don't want this one. I want the necklace with the blue stone in that display. Lucia scoffed, letting out a sarcastic laugh, pretending to be surprised. That necklace costs 1,200 euros. Are you sure? Clara didn't hesitate. She pulled out an old envelope from her bag and held it up in front of Lucia. I have the money. I just need you to show me that necklace. Lucia blinked at the envelope, then burst into loud laughter. You brought cash? We only accept card payments or bank transfers, she said. Clara's voice cracked slightly as she responded, but money is money, right? I've saved my whole life to buy that necklace. Lucia crossed her arms and shrugged. We can't accept large amounts of cash. Besides, I don't think you really want to buy it. Maybe you just came to look around. Clara locked eyes with her, her vision blurred by the tears threatening to spill. I didn't come to look. I want to buy that necklace. Please, show it to me. At that moment, Ethan, the manager, walked over. He glanced briefly at the envelope in Clara's hands and let out a small chuckle. Ma'am, we can't sell you that necklace. It's a special model reserved for VIP customers. Clara was taken aback. VIP customers? But it's right there in the display case. Why can't I buy it? Ethan sneered. Simply because you're not the right type of customer. We have other pieces that would suit you better. Let me show you those. Clara clenched the envelope in her hand, feeling her anger rise inside her. She felt pushed to the margins, treated as if she were of no value. She took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. If you won't sell it to me, I'll go somewhere else. She turned and walked out of the store without saying another word. But just as she reached the door, she heard Lucia's voice behind her. Who does she think she is? An old poor woman who thinks she can buy something here. How ridiculous. The laughter from Lucia and Carlos echoed in her ears like knives to her pride. Clara rushed out, unable to look back as tears streamed down her face. But inside, a growing anger began to ignite, a tiny flame ready to turn into a firestorm. She walked slowly through the crowded street, her eyes filled with sadness and her heart heavy. The mocking words of Lucia and Carlos echoed in her mind, reminding her of how she had been belittled for her humble appearance. She tried to hold back the tears, but the pain in her chest was unbearable. Suddenly, a familiar voice called out from behind her. Clara! Clara! She turned around and saw Maria, a young neighbor from the town, approaching with a large bag in her hands. I just bought some gifts for my family. I didn't expect to run into you here, Maria said cheerfully, though her expression shifted to one of concern when she noticed Clara's downcast demeanor. Are you okay? You look exhausted. Clara attempted a faint smile and shook her head. I'm fine, Maria. I just left a jewelry store. Maria raised an eyebrow. A jewelry store? But why do you look so sad? Clara hesitated for a moment but decided to share everything, from the dismissive looks from the employees to the sarcastic comments she had endured. Upon hearing the story, Maria grabbed Clara's hand, her eyes flashing with indignation. What nonsense! They have no right to treat you like that. It's fine, Maria, Clara replied, trying to reassure the young woman. I'm used to it. People like me, no one really respects us. But you don't deserve to be treated that way, Maria insisted firmly. They don't know who you are or what you've done. If they knew how much you've helped the people in this town, they wouldn't dare treat you like that. Clara gave a faint, melancholic smile but said nothing more. She didn't want to argue, but inside, Maria's words planted a seed. She wasn't a worthless person. She had spent her life helping others, saving every penny to bring joy to her loved ones. And now, she didn't deserve this injustice. Determined, Clara decided to return to the jewelry store once more, this time with clear resolve. I have to show them they're wrong, she thought. But when she walked in, things took a turn for the worse. As the bell rang above the door, Ethan, the manager, looked at her and let out an audible sigh. You again? I've already explained this to you. I'm not here to cause trouble. I just want to buy the necklace I ordered, Clara said, trying to keep her voice calm. Lucia, standing behind the counter, spoke again in a mocking tone. "Didn't you hear what Mr. Ethan said? That necklace isn't for you." Clara insisted, pulling out the envelope again. "I have the money." Alex let out a sarcastic laugh. "With that money, you'll probably only be able to buy the box for the necklace." The laughter erupted louder this time, with both Lucia and Alex joining in. Other customers in the store started to take notice of the scene. An elegantly dressed woman, clearly a regular customer, approached with curiosity. "What's going on?" she asked Lucia. Lucia laughed, not bothering to hide her contempt. "Nothing important, just an old farm woman who thinks she can buy luxury jewelry here." The woman looked Clara up and down, then turned back to Lucia and chuckled. "That's true, it's pretty funny." Clara felt her face heat up with embarrassment. She turned back to Ethan, trying again. "I just want to buy this gift for my daughter. Please, let me see the necklace." Ethan frowned, as though considering her request for a moment before nodding. "Fine, if you really want to, we'll show you the necklace, but I must warn you, we first need to verify your financial ability." "Verify my financial ability?" Clara asked, surprised. "I've never heard anything like that before." "That's right," Ethan confirmed. "We can't waste our valuable time if the customer can't make a purchase," Ethan replied, his tone dripping with disdain. "But I have enough money to buy it," Clara shot back, gripping the envelope tightly in her hand. "Cash." "That's not appropriate," Ethan said. "If you'd like, you can return when you have a credit card or financial documents." His tone shut down any hope Clara might have had. At that moment, the other customers began to murmur, their eyes filled with curiosity and contempt. A man nearby let out a laugh. "This is funny. I thought this was a rural market." Clara couldn't take it anymore. She felt as if she were the joke for everyone there. Humiliation filled her heart, but she refused to let the tears fall. She straightened herself up, tightened her grip on her purse, and quickly walked out of the store, leaving behind the laughter and mocking looks. Once outside, she stopped by a bench, her whole body trembling with anger and indignation. "They don't see me as a person," she thought, as a wave of frustration washed over her. But within that fury, a small spark of hope flickered. She swore to herself that she wouldn't let this injustice stand. Clara sat on a nearby park bench, her trembling hands clutching her old fabric purse. The mocking words and scornful stares from inside the store still echoed in her mind, like needles piercing her dignity. For the first time in her life, she felt that the humiliation was too much to bear. "Are you okay?" a warm voice asked. Clara looked up and saw an older man, dressed neatly, standing in front of her. He held a polished wooden cane, his face kind but his eyes showing concern. "I'm fine," Clara replied softly, trying to hide the overwhelming emotions. "You don't seem fine," the man insisted, sitting gently beside her. "I'm Mr. Vincent, I usually come here for a walk. If you'd like, you can tell me what happened." Clara looked at him for a moment, feeling an unexpected surge of warmth from his genuine concern. She sighed and began to tell her story. When she reached the part where the jewelry store employees had mocked her and refused to serve her, Vincent frowned, his face showing anger. "That's unacceptable," Vincent exclaimed, his voice full of outrage. "Those people think they have the right to judge others based on their appearance. How shameful." Clara lowered her head, her voice trembling. "I just wanted to buy a meaningful gift for my granddaughter. I've saved my whole life for it. But they don't see me as a customer. They see me as someone poor and unworthy to enter their store." Vincent paused for a moment, thinking. Then, he looked at Clara with determination. "Doña Clara, what you've just told me isn't just about you. It's a reflection of how this society works, where people are judged based on appearances. But I don't think you should stay silent. They have no right to treat you like that." Clara nodded slightly, though she still felt overwhelmed. "I know, but who am I to change that? I'm just an ordinary old woman from a small town. I have no power or money to stand up to them." Vincent smiled, wisdom in his eyes. "Sometimes, you don't need power or money, just determination. If you'll let me, I can help you find a way to make them reconsider their attitude." The conversation with Vincent felt like a breath of fresh air for Clara. She no longer felt alone in this fight. After saying goodbye to Vincent, she walked away with a strange feeling, a mix of anger and resolve. "I can't let them keep disrespecting me like this," she thought. That night, Clara sat at the small table in her humble home. On the table, the envelope containing the savings of her entire life still lay there. That money represented years of hard work, selling farm goods, baking cakes, and helping the neighbors in the village. Clara grabbed a sheet of paper and began to write. Her words were serious, direct, but also filled with emotion. The letter was sent to a well-known lawyer in the area, someone Vincent had recommended to her. Clara didn't reveal all of her plans, but she knew she needed support to prepare for something bigger. A week later, she received a response from the lawyer. Don James, a man in his mid-40s with a distinguished presence, arrived at her home carrying a briefcase and exuding a professional demeanor. "Doña Clara, I read your letter," James said as he sat down. "I must say, your story not only surprised me but also inspired me. Do you really want to buy that jewelry store?" Clara nodded, her eyes gleaming with determination. "I can't accept being humiliated like that. I want them to understand that no one has the right to judge anyone just by their appearance." James looked at her in silence for a moment before giving a slight smile. "You're a very determined woman. I'll help you. But first, we need to make this transaction discreet. The jewelry store currently belongs to a business group, but fortunately, they are looking to sell some of their branches that aren't profitable. I'll negotiate on your behalf." "But they'll know who I am," Clara said, concerned. "No, I'll make sure your identity stays hidden. This is something I've done many times before. The key is to move quickly. Opportunities like this don't last long." Clara felt a mixture of nervousness and resolve filling her heart. She couldn't believe how far she had come, but there was no turning back now. "I'll do whatever it takes," she said in a firm voice, even surprising herself. A week later, Clara received a call from James. "It's done, ma'am. As of today, you're the new owner of the Sun Gold Jewelry Store." Clara stayed silent, unable to believe what she was hearing. But in seconds, a smile spread across her face. "Thank you, James. But I don't want anyone to know, at least not yet," she added. "Just as I requested." "Don't worry. We'll keep everything secret until you're ready," James replied. Clara hung up the phone, feeling a strange mix of satisfaction and anticipation. She knew this was just the beginning. Doña Clara set the phone down, overwhelmed by a strange blend of emotions. Fear on one hand, and an intense sense of determination on the other. The disdain shown by the staff at the Sun Gold Jewelry Store had sparked something deep inside her, a fire that had quietly burned within her all her life but had never had the chance to surface. Now, as the new owner, Clara knew exactly what she had to do. The next morning, Clara left her house early. Instead of going straight to the jewelry store, she stopped by to visit Vincent, who had given her the courage to take this step. Vincent welcomed her, offering her a cup of hot coffee. "Doña Clara, how did everything go?" Vincent asked, his eyes full of curiosity. "Whoa, we finished the transaction," Clara replied calmly, though she couldn't hide her pride. "From now on, that jewelry store is mine." Vincent grinned widely, tapping the table lightly with the palm of his hand. "Wonderful. So, what are you going to do now? Are you announcing it right away?" Clara shook her head, her gaze thoughtful. "Not yet. I want to observe them for a while longer. I want to understand how they run the business and how they treat the customers before I decide what the next steps will be." Vincent nodded, approving of her strategy. "That's a wise decision. But you'll need help. I can accompany you if you'd like." "That's not necessary, Vincent. This is something I have to do alone." "But there will be a lot of support," Clara replied, a rare warmth in her voice. That afternoon, Clara put on an old but clean coat, neatly tied a wool scarf, and walked into the Gold of the Sun jewelry store as just another customer. The employees had no idea that the woman in front of them was the new owner of the business. "Back again," muttered Lucia, a young employee, loud enough for Clara to hear. Clara didn't respond, instead observing how the staff attended to other customers. A well-dressed young couple entered and was immediately greeted with warm smiles by Lucia and Alex. They enthusiastically showed off each piece of jewelry, even inviting the couple to sit down and try on the accessories. Clara moved to another display case, where Isabelle, the most senior employee, was working. Clara approached her with intent. "Excuse me, could you show me this silver ring?" she asked. Isabelle looked at her with some hesitation. Compared to her co-workers, Isabelle seemed less arrogant, but still showed some doubt as she took in Clara's simple appearance. After a moment's hesitation, Isabelle gave a slight nod and took out the ring Clara had asked for. "How much is it?" Clara asked calmly. €120, Isabelle replied with little emotion. "I'll take it," Clara said, pretending to hesitate. Lucia, who was nearby, turned around and let out a sarcastic laugh. If you think it's too expensive, you can leave right now," Lucia said. Clara turned to face her with a neutral expression but silently took note of every word and gesture. "Thank you, but I'm just looking," Clara replied coolly. After leaving the jewelry store, Clara met with James, the lawyer who had managed the transaction. They sat in a quiet cafe to discuss the next steps. "Clara, what would you like me to do next?" James asked, opening his notebook. "I want to see all the employee files, especially those of the ones working directly with customers," Clara said in a tone colder than usual. James nodded. "I'll ask the current management to send them over. But, do you have someone in mind? Do you want to fire someone right away?" Clara shook her head. "Not yet," she replied. "I want to get a full picture first. People like Lucia, Alex, I need to know how many other customers they've treated this way." James smiled, admiring Clara's determination. "You're very sharp, don't you, Clara? You don't just want revenge, you're looking for real change." "Exactly," Clara responded, her gaze firm. "I'm not doing this just for me. I want this jewelry store to be a place where everyone is respected, no matter who they are." In the following days, Clara continued to observe the store's employees. She often stayed across the street, watching how they interacted with customers. Soon, she realized she wasn't the only one who had been mistreated. A middle-aged woman, dressed modestly, entered and was immediately ignored by Lucia, while Alex pretended to be busy cleaning display cases to avoid helping her. When the woman asked about the price of an item, they responded curtly and then ignored her again. Clara's anger grew, but instead of acting impulsively, she kept her calm. She knew patience would bring better results. "They'll have to face the consequences," Clara thought, clenching her fists. Clara kept watching the store in the days that followed, paying close attention. She noticed how Lucia, Alex, and some other employees showed clear discrimination, being polite to the well-dressed customers, but cold and dismissive to those who were more modest. However, Clara also observed that Isabella, although not particularly warm, at least tried to do her job. That night, Clara met with James at her modest home, under the dim light of a lamp. Clara spoke openly about what she had witnessed. Clara started with a quiet but determined voice. "James, I don't just want revenge. I want this place to become a space where everyone is treated fairly. But before that, I need those who look down on me to recognize their mistakes." James nodded. "I understand. You want them to face the consequences of their actions." "Exactly," Clara replied. "I want them to realize that arrogance and disrespect can destroy their careers. But before we do that, I need to figure out who deserves to stay and who doesn't." James thought for a moment before quickly jotting something down in his notebook. "We can arrange an internal review. I'll have all employees fill out an anonymous questionnaire on how they think the jewelry store should be run. This will help us identify who truly values the customers and who doesn't." "What? That's a good idea," Clara said, her eyes lighting up. "But we need a more direct approach. I want to observe real interactions where they don't know they're being evaluated." James smiled, understanding what Clara had in mind. "You want to set up a test situation, right? Let me think of something." The next morning, James arrived at the Sun Gold jewelry store, dressed simply. He looked like an average guy, far from the usual confident lawyer image. He pretended to be a regular customer, wanting to test how the employees would treat him. As he walked in, the doorbell rang, as usual. Alex, who was nearby, glanced over and frowned. "Good morning, how can I help you?" he asked, with no enthusiasm in his voice. "I'd like to see the silver necklace with the green stone in that display case," James replied, pointing to the corner where Clara had seen the necklace before. Alex looked him up and down, then sneered. "That expensive necklace? Are you sure?" James pretended to feel uncomfortable. "I just want to take a look. Maybe it's within my budget." Alex sighed and mumbled something inaudible, then reluctantly opened the display case. He grabbed the necklace, but instead of showing it to James up close, he held it in his hand and said curtly, "This costs 1,200 euros. Do you have enough money?" "Can I pay with a credit card?" James asked, trying to stay calm. "That's fine, but to save time, we'll need to check your credit first. You understand, right?" Alex said with a smug grin, making it clear he had no intention of helping James. Lucia, who had been nearby, noticed the interaction between James and Alex and leaned over to whisper to Carlos. "That guy looks like he's really poor. Definitely just another one of those people who come in to look but don't actually buy anything," Carlos said with a sarcastic laugh. "Total waste of time." James remained calm, smiled, and left the store without saying another word. He then met Clara and told her everything that had happened. That's exactly what happened to me, Clara said, her voice full of disappointment. I know, James replied. But you know what? This is the perfect test. We need more situations like this to get a full assessment. The next day, Clara sent her old friend, Doña Teresa, to the jewelry store. Teresa, a retired teacher, wore simple clothes and carried a worn handbag. She walked into the store with a friendly smile but was immediately met with cold stares from the employees. Excuse me, I'd like to see some silver rings, Teresa said, approaching Lucia. Lucia made a gesture and turned to Isabellele. Isabellele, please assist the lady. I'm busy, Isabellele responded curtly, then walked away, clearly not wanting to waste time with Teresa. Isabellele reluctantly nodded and approached Teresa. Though she didn't show much enthusiasm, she helped Teresa look at a few rings. This one costs €80, Isabellele said in a neutral tone. Teresa smiled and nodded. Thanks, I'll think about it. But as soon as Teresa turned away, Lucia laughed and said to Carlos, she probably can't afford anything. She's just here to look for fun. When Clara received the reports from James and Teresa, she knew she had enough evidence. She spent the whole night reading every note James had written, feeling the humiliation and contempt reflected in the employees' attitudes. Every word fueled the fire of her anger. These people don't deserve to be serving customers, Clara muttered, her hands shaking with fury. But she took a deep breath, trying to regain her composure. I'm not doing this just for myself. I'm doing this for everyone who has been looked down on and treated unfairly. The next morning, the atmosphere at the Sun Gold jewelry store was the same as usual. The golden lights shining, the display cases sparkling with precious jewels, and the employees maintaining their usual air of arrogance. Lucy was smiling falsely at a wealthy client, while Alex was wiping down the glass cases, throwing calculating glances at the other customers. But everything changed when the store door suddenly opened, and the bell rang as it always did. Clara walked in, but this time she didn't have the shy appearance or sad eyes she once had. She was dressed in a sleek, dark dress and a simple yet elegant silk scarf instead of her old woolen shawl. Her gaze was firm and cold, radiating authority, making the employees stop in their tracks. Lucy, who had been talking to a client, froze when she saw Clara. She furrowed her brows, surprised, and turned to whisper to Alex. Her again? How dare she come back here? Alex shrugged and replied quietly, maybe she still thinks she can buy something here. Clara walked straight to the center of the store, her heels echoing sharply on the marble floor. She stopped in front of the main counter and looked at each employee. Everyone, gather here, Clara said in a firm voice. The employees exchanged confused looks, and Lucy clearly felt uneasy. We're busy attending to customers, Lucy protested, but Clara didn't move, her eyes locked on Lucy. I said everyone gather here, now. At that moment, Ethan, the manager, came out from the back office with a folder in his hand. He looked at Clara, initially surprised, but then his usual arrogant attitude returned. Ma'am, if you're not intending to buy anything, I'm afraid you can't just interrupt us like this. Clara met his gaze directly, a slight smile of confidence playing on her lips. Do you think I don't have the right? She pulled a document out of her purse and placed it forcefully on the counter. I'm the new owner of this jewelry store. The store fell into complete silence. Lucy, Alex, and the other employees stood frozen, their faces filled with disbelief. Ethan frowned, glancing quickly at the document before looking back at Clara in confusion. You're joking, right? She's not joking, a firm voice said from the back of the store. James, the lawyer, entered confidently, carrying another set of documents. He placed them on the counter and added, here's the proof of the transaction. From today on, Ms. Clara Martin is the sole owner of Sun Gold. Ethan's face turned pale. Lucy opened her mouth in disbelief, while Alex took a step back, as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. This can't be, Lucy whispered. How did she? Silence, Clara ordered, her voice cold yet authoritative. Now I want everyone to listen carefully to what I'm about to say. Clara stepped forward, her gaze sweeping over every face. I've been watching how you've been running this place. Do you think you have the right to judge people based on their appearance? Do you think only the rich, the ones dressed in luxury, deserve respect? Lucy lowered her head, unable to respond. Alex avoided Clara's gaze, nervously scanning the room. And you? Clara continued, turning to the longest-serving employee, who stood motionless with a thoughtful expression. Lucy, Clara said sternly. You think I don't know what you've been doing? You mock the customers, refuse to serve them, and even make disparaging comments right here in this store. I've seen it all. Lucy opened her mouth to respond, but Clara raised her hand to stop her. You don't need to justify yourself. Your behavior is unacceptable. You're fired, effective immediately. Lucy's face drained of color. You can't do this? I've been working here for over 6 years. I don't care how long you've been here. What you've done is enough to make this decision, Clara responded coldly. Clara then turned to Alex. And you're not any better. You avoid customers, speak harshly, and show no responsibility in your work. You're fired too. Alex opened his mouth but couldn't find words to say. He just stood there, his face flushed with embarrassment. Finally, Clara turned her gaze directly to Ethan. And you, who should be setting an example for the employees, are the worst of them all. Not only do you ignore customer complaints, but you've also been skimming off the store's profits. Anyone have something to say? Ethan tried to keep his composure, but his voice trembled. I was just doing what I needed to keep the store running. What you were doing wasn't keeping the store running, it was making it worse. You're fired, effective immediately. After announcing the layoffs, Clara addressed the remaining employees. I'm not here to destroy this jewelry store. I'm here to make it a place where everyone is respected, no matter who they are, how they dress, or how much money they have. If any of you disagree with that, you can leave right now. The store fell silent. After a moment, Isabella stepped forward and nodded at Clara. I'll stay. I've always believed that customers deserve respect. Clara gave a slight smile. Thank you, Isabella. I'm counting on you to help rebuild this place. Clara turned toward the door, glancing at everyone one last time. This is a chance to start over. I hope you don't disappoint me. With those words, she walked out, leaving behind a heavy silence. After taking charge and firing the unsuitable employees, Clara began her plan to rebuild the Sun's Gold team. She knew that changing a place steeped in outdated ways of thinking wouldn't be easy. But she trusted that with the right people and the right approach, Sun's Gold would become a symbol of respect and excellence in customer service. The next morning, Clara gathered all the remaining employees for an important meeting in the back office of the store. The room was small, but the tension in the air was palpable. Isabella, the longest-serving employee, sat in the front row, her expression a mix of concern and determination. A few younger employees, like Anna and James, who handled accounting and inventory, were also present. Clara entered the room, her eyes scanning each of them. She began in a calm but firm voice. I've been watching you all during this time. I know who among you has worked with integrity and who has failed to fulfill their responsibilities. Those who didn't respect the customers have already been let go. But for the rest of you still here, I believe you can do better. Clara turned to Isabella. Isabella, I know you haven't always been the most enthusiastic, but I've also seen how you worked hard to serve the customers when others ignored them. You did your best under tough circumstances, and I appreciate that. From today, you'll be in charge of training the new employees. I trust that with your experience and patience, you'll teach them how to do things the right way. Isabella was taken aback, her eyes glistening with emotion. Thank you, Miss Clara. I'll do my best not to disappoint you. Clara then turned to Anna, the young woman in charge of inventory. Anna, I know you don't interact much with customers, but your accounting has always been clear and transparent. I need someone with your attention to detail in the position of inventory supervisor. You'll take on this role starting today. Anna nodded, her face red with surprise. Thank you, I'll give it my best effort. Fabier, who also handled inventory, was offered a promotion. Fabier, I want you to supervise the entire operational process from now on. I need someone young, with a good work attitude, and ready to make things better. Are you ready? Fabier smiled confidently. Of course, Mrs. Clara. This is a great chance to show what I can do. After assigning new roles, Clara introduced her plan for change. She held up a whiteboard with a large, clear phrase written on it. Regardless of appearance, background, or economic status, we treat every customer equally. Clara emphasized, this principle will guide everything we do. I want everyone who walks into this jewelry store to feel respected and treated with sincerity, whether they make a purchase or not, whether they wear luxury clothes or something simpler. She continued. If someone can't follow this principle, they don't belong on our team. Isabella, Anna, and James all nodded in agreement. Clara was pleased to see the determination in their eyes. To take the jewelry store to the next level, Clara knew it wouldn't be enough to keep the current employees. She needed to bring in fresh faces, people with a positive attitude and a modern approach to customer service. Clara asked James to post a job ad across various online platforms and customer service training schools in Madrid. It wasn't long before dozens of applications came in. Clara personally reviewed each one, focusing particularly on enthusiastic young people with experience in environments that required strong communication skills. The interviews took place in the small office behind the store. Clara, along with Isabella and James, conducted the interviews themselves. One of the first to make a great impression was Paul, a young man who had worked at a luxury hotel. "Tell me, Paul, why do you want to work here?" Clara asked, her gaze intense. Paul smiled and spoke confidently. "I believe all customers deserve respect. In my previous job, I learned to listen to customers' needs and fulfill them with the highest level of commitment. I want to bring what I've learned to this place." Clara nodded with satisfaction. "All right, I'll keep that in mind." Another candidate was Elena, a young woman with a warm smile and bright eyes. When asked why she was applying, she replied, "I love creating positive experiences for customers. I believe a sincere smile can brighten anyone's day." Clara could feel the sincerity in Elena's words and immediately decided to hire her. After a week of recruitment, Clara had assembled a young, enthusiastic, and professional team. She organized a meeting to introduce the new employees to the existing team. Clara stood before them, her eyes shining with hope. "We're not just here to sell jewelry. We're here to create memorable experiences so that every person who walks in feels welcome. Let's work together to make Golden a symbol of kindness and professionalism." Everyone applauded, and the atmosphere was filled with positive energy. Clara felt the change she had envisioned beginning to take shape. Under her leadership, Golden was transforming day by day. Not only had she reorganized the team, but she had also redefined the store's operations and core values. Clara understood that to make Golden a landmark in Madrid, it wasn't enough to focus solely on products. She needed to build a genuine, human image. Clara began by completely redesigning the store's interior. She hired a team of designers to create a warm yet elegant environment. Golden lighting was adjusted to create a more inviting atmosphere, fostering a sense of closeness. Glass counters were reorganized so that customers could easily view the products without needing assistance. A large wall was dedicated to displaying the store's new slogan, "Respect, Sincerity, Quality." Additionally, Clara created a special corner in the store to feature more affordable jewelry, so that customers with modest incomes would also feel welcome. This corner was called Love Bracelets, an initiative designed for those looking for meaningful gifts without breaking the bank. The new hires went through intensive training under the guidance of Isabella, who was in charge of their onboarding process. They learned not just how to sell, but how to listen to customers, understand their needs, and connect with their desires. Constant reminders emphasized the importance of this. Customers don't just come to buy jewelry, they come seeking happiness and to feel valued. One day, an elderly woman, dressed modestly, walked into the store, hesitating as though she didn't belong. But this time, instead of receiving judgmental glances, the woman was greeted with a warm smile from Helena, one of the new employees. "Welcome. How can I assist you today?" Helena asked kindly. "I just wanted to look at a bracelet for my granddaughter," the elderly woman replied. "But I'm not sure if I have enough money," she added, her voice trembling. "Don't worry," Helena reassured her. "I'll help you find a beautiful and meaningful gift," and led her to the bracelet section. After browsing together, the elderly woman left with a delicate silver bracelet and a smile of joy on her face. This story quickly spread throughout the community, and many people began to take an interest in the transformation of Sun Gold. Before long, the jewelry store became known as a place where anyone could come without fear of being judged. Clara knew that to change people's perception of Sun Gold, she had to send a stronger message. She organized a small press conference at the store, inviting local journalists to share her story. During the event, Clara didn't shy away from speaking about the discrimination she had faced in the past. "Why, it doesn't matter who you are or how much money you have, everyone deserves respect," Clara said in front of the cameras. Sun Gold isn't just about jewelry, it's about the value of honesty and kindness. Clara's story quickly became a topic of interest for many. The media praised her as a brave woman who confronted injustice and brought about positive change in the service industry in Madrid. But Clara didn't stop at improving customer service. She allocated a portion of the store's profits to support local charitable programs. One standout initiative was the Bracelets of Hope Scholarship Fund, designed to help low-income students. Additionally, Clara funded a training center for older women, teaching them craft skills to help them earn an income. Clara understood that people like her, humble and hardworking, deserved the opportunity to shine. Every year, Sun Gold hosted a major event to honor its customers, featuring activities such as free gifts, special discounts, and the sharing of meaningful stories from their most loyal clients. These events not only brought in more customers but also fostered a strong sense of community around the brand. The story of Clara didn't just inspire customers, it also transformed the mindset of her employees. Isabelle, who had once been rigid and disengaged, had become a dedicated mentor. Elena, with her constant smile, had become the most beloved employee. Even James, who used to work behind the scenes, felt proud to be part of this change. One day, a regular customer approached Clara, took her hand, and said, "You've taught us an important lesson. That character and kindness mean more than any piece of jewelry in this store. Thank you for showing us that." Clara smiled, her heart swelling with happiness. She knew that the changes she had made not only improved Sun Gold but also spread a much deeper message. The true value of a person isn't measured by how much money they have, but by how they treat others. Under Clara's leadership, Sun Gold quickly became one of the most beloved jewelry stores in Madrid, not only for the quality of its products but for the inspiring story of humanity and kindness behind each piece. And Clara, once a simple woman who had been overlooked, had become a symbol of true human value. The story of Clara Martin stands as a living testament to the power of character and kindness. Through a path full of challenges, she proved that a person's true worth is not in their appearance or wealth, but in how they treat others. The lesson is clear: never judge someone by their appearance, because everyone carries a story deserving of respect. Respect and sincerity not only build lasting success, but also create profound meaning in life and in the community.